What if I told you one of the world's most expensive coffees comes from animal droppings? Or there is a type of coffee accidentally invented because someone couldn't find hot water? And that's just the beginning. From the famous kopi luwak to wartime instant coffee that changed armies, and even creamy cheese coffee, we will cover it all today. And the deeper we go, the stranger it gets. So let's start with the drink that became the foundation of almost every modern coffee order. Category 1, the familiar ones, espresso. Every coffee drink you've ever ordered, the latte you get on your way to work, or the cappuccino you had on vacation, all of it traces back to one man who was trying to solve a completely different problem. His name was Luigi Bezzera. It was 1901. He owned a factory in Milan, and his workers were taking too long on their coffee breaks. So he built a machine that forced pressurized hot water through ground coffee in under 30 seconds. He wasn't trying to create a masterpiece. He was trying to save time. What came out of that machine was espresso. Against a common misunderstanding, espresso doesn't mean strong. It comes from the Italian word for pressed out, referring to how the water is forced through the grounds under pressure. 1 to 2 ounces, 9 bars of atmospheric pressure, water at exactly 93 degrees Celsius. In about 25 seconds, you get a shot with a golden layer of foam on top called crema. And that crema is basically the fingerprint of a well-made espresso. But the man who invented it never actually got rich from it. Bezzera sold his patent almost immediately. Someone else took it, built an empire, and changed the world. Who? That's where the Americano comes in. Americano. The Americano was born from embarrassment. During World War II, Italy, 1944. American soldiers were exhausted from being far from home, and someone handed them a tiny cup of espresso. They take one sip, and they hate it, because it's nothing like the coffee they grew up drinking. So they did the only logical thing. They poured hot water into it to dilute it down to something familiar. The Italians watching this were horrified. They called the drink Americano. It was the Italian equivalent of watching someone put ketchup on fine pasta and naming the dish after them. But the Americans didn't care. It tasted like home. Today, an Americano is simply espresso shots topped with hot water. Same caffeine as the original shot. Larger volume, smoother, slightly less intense flavor. It has the same amount of espresso as a straight shot. It's just diluted in volume. The strength is the same. The experience is different. But if you think that's an unlikely origin story, wait until you hear how the next drink got its name from a religious order of monks. Cappuccino versus latte. Here's the thing nobody tells you. A cappuccino and a latte contain literally identical components. Espresso, steamed milk, milk foam. That's it. The only difference is the ratio. A cappuccino is equal thirds. 1 part espresso, 1 part steamed milk, 1 part thick foam. A latte, which is mostly steamed milk, a thin layer of foam, and just enough espresso. It's coffee for people who want coffee to stop being so aggressive about it. Now here's where it gets interesting. The cappuccino was named after the Capuchin Friars, a 16th century Catholic order known for their brown hooded robes. Someone looked at this layered drink, noticed the color matched those robes, and the name stuck. A Catholic monk is the reason you're ordering a cappuccino at Starbucks in 2024. And in Italy, ordering a cappuccino after noon is a cultural crime. Locals will stare at you and waiters will judge you. But the latte has its own identity crisis. Because in Italy, ordering a latte just gets you a cold glass of milk. No coffee. Just milk, delivered with complete seriousness. American coffee chains in the 1990s blurred the line between these two drinks deliberately. Italy has never fully forgiven us for this. Now those drinks all have one thing in common. They were born in Europe. But while Italy was naming coffees after monks, the rest of the world was doing something far more interesting with the same bean. Trust me, you are not ready for these. Category 2, the cultural ones. Turkish coffee. What if drinking coffee could get you executed? In 1633, Sultan Murad IV of the Ottoman Empire made coffee punishable by death, not because it was dangerous to your health, but because it was dangerous to his power. Men were gathering in coffee houses, talking, arguing, and plotting. The coffee house was the internet of the 1600s, and it terrified him. Turkish coffee is just very finely ground. Coffee boiled directly in water. No filter, no machine. You put water, coffee, and sometimes sugar into a small pot called a sesvi. Heat it slowly until it froths up, then pour it straight into a cup. The grounds sink to the bottom on their own. You drink the top, stop before the sludge, and you're done. Furthermore, when you finish the cup, you flip it upside down on the saucer. Let it cool. Then someone reads your future from the grounds. Fortune-telling from coffee is still practiced across Turkey, Greece, and the Balkans today. UNESCO made it official in 2013. Turkish coffee culture is an intangible heritage of humanity. And if you think that Turkish took coffee seriously, wait until you hear about the country that invented it. Ethiopian coffee ceremony. In Ethiopia, the country where coffee was literally born, drinking it is a ceremony that takes 2 to 3 hours. You don't rush it, you don't take it to go. You sit down and you participate. It starts with raw green beans being roasted over hot coals. Then the beans are ground by hand, brewed in a clay pot called a jabana, and served in 3 rounds. Each round has a name. Abel is the first, the strongest. Tona is the second. Baraka is the third, which literally translates to blessing. You drink all 3. Now here's what makes this extraordinary. Ethiopia didn't just give the world coffee. Legend says a goat herder named Kaldi noticed his goats dancing after eating red berries from a specific tree. He brought the berries to a monk. The monk boiled them. And that, allegedly, is how coffee began. One country gave the world its most consumed beverage, and they've never stopped treating it like the gift it is. Which makes the next story even more fascinating, because someone took that gift and accidentally created a masterpiece. Vietnamese egg coffee, sa phê trung. What do you do when you run out of milk and you're a bartender? If you're Nguyen Van Giang in 1946 Hanoi, you grab an egg yolk, whisk it with sugar until it becomes a pale, ribbony foam, and pour it over strong Vietnamese Robusta coffee. Well, because you have no other choice. Fresh milk was scarce during the French War, and people still wanted their coffee. What he accidentally invented is one of the most extraordinary drinks on this list. Egg coffee, ca phê trung, looks like a cappuccino from the outside, but the first sip stops you completely. It's thick, it's sweet, it's almost custardy. Imagine a tiramisu you can drink. Nothing else in this entire video tastes like it. Zhong's original cafe in Hanoi's old quarter still exists. His son runs it now. People fly to Vietnam specifically to sit in that tiny upstairs room and drink the recipe. That's the thing about necessity. It doesn't just create solutions, sometimes it creates legends, okay? So far, everything we've covered has made some kind of obvious sense. Milk and espresso, hot water and beans. But this next category? These are the drinks where someone, at some point, looked at their coffee and thought, you know what this needs? Let's find out together. Category 3, the unusual ones. Bulletproof coffee. Do you know skipping breakfast wasn't laziness? It was a biohack? That's exactly what Dave Asprey convinced millions of people in 2009. He'd just come back from a hiking trip in Tibet, where he drank traditional yak butter tea at 18,000 feet and felt, in his words, transformed. He landed back in Silicon Valley, walked into his kitchen, blended 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter and MCT oil into black coffee, and decided he'd crack the code to human performance. Bulletproof coffee actually is black coffee, grass-fed butter, and coconut-derived MCT oil, blended until it looks like a latte. No milk, no sugar, just fat. A lot of it. The idea was that fat slows caffeine absorption, giving you sustained energy instead of a spike and crash. The productivity world went absolutely feral for it. Executives were replacing breakfast with this. Tech founders were podcasting about it. It briefly became the unofficial drink of anyone who owned a standing desk. Nutritionists pushed back hard. 450 calories of mostly saturated fat with 0 protein, 0 fiber for breakfast. But Asprey didn't invent the concept. Butter and coffee is centuries old across Ethiopia, Tibet, and parts of West Africa. He just put it in a blender, gave it a name, and sold it to people. Next up, a coffee that takes 24 hours to make. That's not even the most interesting part. Nitro cold brew. What happens when you take coffee and make it like beer? You get something that shouldn't work, but somehow works better than almost anything else in the cup. Cold brew is already different from regular coffee. Instead of hot water, you steep coarse grounds in cold water for 12 to 24 hours. Slow extraction, less acidity, naturally sweeter. Then you pump it through a nitrogen gas tap. The result is a dark stout with a slow cascading creamy head at the top. No dairy, no sugar. Just nitrogen bubbles that create a rich and velvety texture on your tongue. Several specialty coffee shops claim credit of it around 2012 and 2013. But the moment that changed everything was 2016, when Starbucks added it to select menus. Within 2 years, Nitro Cold Brew was their fastest growing product globally. Fascinating from a science standpoint. The nitrogen doesn't just change the texture, it suppresses your perception of bitterness. The same coffee tastes smoother, almost sweet, without a single gram of added sugar. But the next one, I genuinely need you to trust me on this. This type of coffee involves cheese. Kaffeeost Finnish cheese coffee. Go ahead, read the name again. Kaffeeost, coffee with cheese. Not cheese flavored, not a cheese garnish. Actual cubes of cheese dropped directly into a hot cup of coffee and then eaten with a spoon when you're done drinking. This is not a joke. This is a centuries-old Scandinavian tradition, particularly in northern Finland and among the Sami people. And they've been doing this since long before espresso machines existed. The cheese is called juustoleipä, or bread cheese. When you drop a cube into hot coffee, it doesn't melt. It absorbs. It gets warm and slightly caramelized on the edges, while the inside stays soft and creamy. You drink the coffee first, then you fish out the soaked cubes and eat them. They taste like warm, coffee-drenched, lightly sweet cheese, which sounds absolutely wrong until you realize that's basically what a tiramisu is. And nobody questions tiramisu. It was practical before it was cultural. In harsh winters with limited food, a cup of coffee with fat-rich cheese was efficient. Today, it's making a quiet comeback in Nordic cafes, showing up on menus as a heritage experience. People try it expecting to hate it. Most of them don't. Now here's where the story shifts. The drinks in this next category weren't invented in kitchens or coffee labs. They were invented in wars. These are drinks where the backstory is the drink, starting with a cup that fueled an actual revolution. Not metaphorically, literally. Category 4, the historic ones, café de olla, Mexican spiced coffee. During the Mexican Revolution in the early 1900s, armies were moving constantly, exhausted, underfed. And every morning, the women traveling with these armies would wake up before everyone else and brew this exact coffee over an open fire, before the fighting, before anything else. It once kept a revolution alive. Café de olla is a Mexican coffee brewed in a clay pot. That's it. No machines, no fancy equipment. You throw in some cinnamon and piloncillo, a dark, rustic sugar, and let it simmer over heat. The clay pot actually changes the taste of the water. The coffee that comes out tastes like nothing you'd get from a regular machine. It's one of those things that sounds too small to matter, until you realize the people who drank it were changing their country. The next one involves an Ottoman siege, an abandoned army, and one very opportunistic Polish soldier. Viennese coffee, Wiener Melange. Imagine an entire civilization's cafe culture, the coffee houses where Freud wrote, where Klimt argued, where Mahler composed, all of it existing because a retreating army forgot their luggage. That's basically what happened. It's 1683. The Ottoman army has just failed to take Vienna after a brutal siege. They retreat fast and leave behind thousands of sacks of strange green beans that the Viennese have never seen before. Nobody knows what they are. Some think they're camel feed. Enter Jerzy Kulczycki, a Polish officer who had lived in Turkey and knew exactly what those beans were. He claimed the sacks as his battle reward and opened Central Europe's first coffee house. He added milk and honey to soften the bitterness for European tastes. That small tweak became the Wiener melange. Half coffee, half steamed milk, a little foam on top. The Ottoman Empire wanted to conquer Vienna. Instead, they accidentally gave it its entire cultural identity. And if you think that's a strange origin story, the next coffee was born from colonial oppression and somehow became the most expensive cup on the planet. Kopi luwak, Sir Civet coffee. If someone handed you a coffee and told you it cost $80 a cup, would you ask what's in it before or after you drank it? Kopi luwak is made from coffee beans that have been eaten, digested, and passed through the body of an Asian palm civet. It's a small, cat-like creature native to Indonesia. The beans ferment inside the civet's digestive tract. Stomach acids strip away the proteins responsible for bitterness. What comes out the other end gets collected, washed, roasted, and sold for more per kilogram than most people's rent. I'm sure you must be saying it's disgusting. Trust me, been there. But the origin story is what flips this from disgusting to genuinely fascinating. During Dutch colonial rule in Indonesia, local plantation workers were forbidden from harvesting coffee for themselves. So they found a workaround, collecting civet droppings from the forest floor to retrieve the beans they weren't allowed to touch. An act of defiance against colonial law became a luxury product that wealthy tourists now pay fortunes for. However, the sad part is, most commercial kopi luwak today comes from caged civets, a complete betrayal of the wild, free process that made it special in the first place. So there you have it. Coffee didn't just travel the world, it survived bans, wars, colonial theft, and Silicon Valley biohackers trying to replace breakfast with butter. And somehow it still shows up every morning as if nothing happened.